Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tim Radio Show. I'm your host, Tim Radio. It is episode number 11, and it is November 12th. So we're going to start this off with the news about the legend, the Canadian legend, hockey legend, Don Cherry. Basically, he's a host for a show called Coach's Corner on Sportsnet. Talks about hockey, all that kind of stuff. Huge hockey guy in Canada. And he kind of said this thing about poppies, people coming into Canada not wearing poppies, like nobody wears them anymore. Kind of sounded like immigrants, kind of didn't, but they fired him. Anyway, Sportsnet, it's owned by Rogers. They fired him completely. He's gone. So I just want to play the actual clip so that people can see what he said in the full kind of context.
You know, I was talking to a veteran. I said, I'm not going to run the poppy thing anymore because what's the sense? I live in Mississauga. Nobody wears, very few people wear a poppy. Downtown Toronto, forget it, downtown Toronto. Nobody wears a poppy. And I'm not going to. He says, wait a minute. How about running it for the people that buy them? Now, you go to the small cities, and the rows on rows, you people love, they come here, whatever it is, you love our way of life, you love our milk and honey. At least you could pay a couple of bucks for poppies or something like that. These guys pay for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada. These guys paid the biggest price. Anyhow, I'm going to run it again for you great people and good Canadians that bought a poppy. I'm still going to run it anyhow.
Love you for it.
So first of all, I don't know why this guy isn't fired as well, because he's agreeing with them the whole time. He's shaking his head, like, especially when he makes the specific point. He's like, yep, and then says it's good that he runs that thing anyway. And let's just watch the kind of PSA that he does.
Here we are, November 11th. We're in Trelinkin British Cemetery in France. On November 11th, I want everybody to remember when you're buying a poppy and you see row after row of our Canadian dead here. And I'm going to put here, he visited Thomas William Mackenzie, Military Medal and Bar, Canadian Field Artillery. He died 7 days before the end of the war, 27 years old. So when you're walking by and you see our great legions, guys standing there and they offer you a poppy, think of all this. These guys gave their lives. At least you can buy a poppy. Because what's the...
So, I mean, the PSA is totally fine, nothing wrong with that. But that's just what he's, just kind of promoting the idea that it's Remembrance Day. You've got to remember the sacrifice that these people made in order to, continue the way of life that we enjoy today. The democracy, the freedoms, just having a strong economy and all these kind of things are a result of the people who fight for it, the people in the military, even police officers and firemen. Really, if you think about those kind of like those duties, those kind of calls of duty. But particularly the people who fell in war, and regardless if you appreciate the war or not, if you agree with it or not, the soldiers, when they sign up, they don't sign up for a vote to say what the military does or doesn't do. They go there to serve, and so it's not always going to be right, but you can't knock those soldiers for doing their part. So anyway, let's just listen to what he said again, and I just want to, and I actually referenced this last week when someone was talking about the rainbow poppy. People are like ranting about it, and I point out the fact that that's just a troll. That's not a real thing. I don't know why they're even writing articles about it. They're talking about some unverified Twitter user who went on a rant, which was just, I don't get why there's a rainbow gay pride poppy. Just leave it black and red. Those colors signify stuff. You don't have to change. To change it is kind of like to change the flag in general and stuff. You're not really supposed. So anyway, turned out it was a whole ruse. The person was actually serious, but the original tweet with the rainbow pop, it wasn't a real one. It was just someone trolling people. So that actually came out to be the case. But anyway, that's a side point. So let's just hear what he said again.
Since I live in Mississauga, nobody wears, very few people wear a poppy. Downtown Toronto, forget it, downtown Toronto. Nobody wears a poppy. And I'm not going to. He says, wait a minute. How about running it for the people that buy them? Now, you go to the small cities, and those.
So now I think they kind of came out and they tried to contextualize it and say, well, maybe it was or wasn't talking about immigrants per se. And he contextualizes at the first, saying just do it for the people that buy the people that show up, right?
The rows and rows. You people love you. They come here, whatever it is. You love our way of life.
You come here, so that's kind of the part. You come here. So is he referencing the people like he's talking about people in lineups, lining up to get these poppy at the legions and stuff like that, paying their respects, going there, get a poppy, donating some money. Now, you could take it that way, or he's saying, because then he kind of trails it with, they come here for milk and honey and blah, blah, blah. I mean, they can kind of be 2 points, but I'm actually going to go with the furthest, more extreme point, where let's just say he is talking about immigrants. How is that hardly offensive to say? How is that more offensive than them not buying a poppy? If that's the point, you know what I mean? So, and of course that's going to happen. Of course there's going to be less people who immigrated here that would, subscribe to these kind of common things that we do, just like social things that like kind of social norms that we have. That's called assimilation. That's a process that takes like a generation for people to assimilate, like a family to assimilate. The kids that they raise in the new country will naturally be assimilated, but those old grandparents, even just the parents or whatever, or the brothers and sisters, those kind of things, that's a process of assimilation. So of course they're not just going to go and all of them by default are going to buy poppies. But that's kind of, but that's a valid point, is just to point that out. Like, he's kind of upset about it, like, we're kind of losing it because it's the assimilation is diluting, those common values. So now it's only like 10% of the people that end up buying these poppies. Well, what happens when it becomes like 1% of the people that buy the poppy? So that's a valid concern. It's a valid point. It's probably statistically true, right, that more natively born people would buy these than people who immigrate. And it's not a dock against immigration. It's just stressing that you can't lose certain values. So I'm totally with them, even if it's the more extreme point. It's not to dock immigrants at all. It's just to say, hey, look, there's social norms that you should adopt, and this is one of them. This is one of those social norms that, and I'm going to confess, I didn't buy a poppy. I did not buy a poppy, and I walked right by the people multiple times. And every time I do that, I feel bad. And it's a social awkwardness thing. It has nothing to do with whether or not I do support it or don't support it. But there are a lot of people that they don't care about what's awkward, what's not, what isn't awkward. What matters or doesn't matter with social norms of like how to interact with people, so they don't mind approaching people or doing so or whatever. You know what I mean? So. Anyway, enough about this. He's totally going to be fine. He's gonna have his own show on YouTube or something like that. I mean, the guy is 85. He's got to cash out sooner or later anyway. But he's probably one of those guys that'll just work till the day he dies. And I would imagine, and he looks lively. I mean, look at him.
You love our milk and honey. At least you could pay a couple of bucks for poppies or something like that. These guys pay for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada. These guys paid the biggest price. Anyhow, I'm going to run it again for you great people and good Canadians that bought a poppy. I'm still going to run it anyhow.
And he's saying good Canadian. So if you're Canadian, you're Canadian. He's not saying, these types or whatever. But anyway, he's going to have his own thing. He's probably going to have his own show. They'll do something with them. They're going to get trashed for this. They're totally going to get trashed. The ratings for this show is going to plummet to nothing. I mean, the guy's an icon. Just his suits alone are an icon. But he's a patriotic person, and he's probably going to be bigger than ever after this, really. So just in a little creepy news with Google and stuff, I was talking about this the other week with Apple and kind of pointing out their privacy policy and how they made it kind of really cool and nice and funky looking, and they kind of simplified the language and stuff like, hey, yeah, we do share some data sometimes, but don't worry, it's for this and that, and it'll never be used. So they kind of just made it kind of light and fluffy, but then when you actually pull up the full version, because there's like the summarized version and then the actual like legal version, then they just go into much more detail into what they're actually doing, and you can kind of see the context in a certain kind of thing. So they'll say, we won't do this, but it doesn't necessarily stop with these other companies from doing these other kind of blah, blah, blah. So they're always kind of having that kind of double speak there. And this is just kind of one of those examples. Google has a project called Project Nightingale, which they teamed up with this Catholic organization called Ascension, which basically they have access to all these different hospitals and records and stuff that they deal with for, I guess, their patients, or maybe it's some kind of like insurance company type deal. So they have all these records for all these patients and stuff. So they're allowing, without any notification to the users who are represented by the data, and you can see here, like, name, date of birth, address, family members, allergies, immunizations, radiology scans, hospitalization records, lab tests, medications, medical conditions, all this getting thrown up into the cloud so it can be accessed anywhere, essentially in the United States. They're going to have like 40 plus data centers in the States just to deal with these kind of records. And the idea is that it's going to make it more fluid. It's going to consolidate a lot of records. A lot of records it's hard to get from one place to another. So, of course, it's going to solve a lot of problems in terms of accessibility to the records and consistency and accuracy. But, like, look at this. Data instantly flows to Google's Project Nightingale system. The system may suggest the following outcomes among others. Okay, so this is creepy part, is among others. So this is kind of a snapshot of what they'll admit they're going to do for now. But the system may suggest the following outcomes among others. So treatment plans, suggest tests, flag unusual deviations in care, replace or addition of doctors to patient's team, additional enforcements of narcotics policies. So they're basically saying if someone's abusing drugs, they'll rat them out. If the doctor's bad, they'll rat them out. If the plan is, like, if there's a certain kind of medical plan where the doctor's, kind of deviating from what would normally done. So this is going to strip the ability for a doctor-patient relationship. Now it's going to be a customer AI relationship. That's all it's going to become, is a customer and AI relationship. So people will be paying, whether it's insurance companies, hospitals, whatever, they'll be paying this system to cover their butts, and they probably won't be able to operate without it at a certain point, because it'll be so regimented, it'll be so strict, and it'll be so optimized. So technically, it'll save, when they leave all these parts inside people after surgeries, it'll reduce that by 90%. It'll reduce the amount of overdeaths. It'll reduce it. So it'll do all these great things, and then it'll be impossible to actually operate without it. Just from a policy standpoint, and even possibly from a business standpoint, as a hospital, you got all these liabilities. The insurance company says, you implement this system, and we'll cut your premiums and stuff like that. And so it's a double-edged sword for sure. The really creepy part, though, is the fact that Google's actually sharing this stuff. They have access to it. They have it on multiple data centers. So just keep in mind, they're talking about multiple data centers all around. When they say cloud, basically anytime they say cloud, that means that the information is duplicated several times, so that if one instance of it goes down, there's actually still instances of that information readily available in other places. It's redundancy. It's data redundancy. And it's spread out. So the information is always accessible. Even if half the thing gets shut down, statistically, everything should still be there, even if half the network goes down. So they're doing that without telling people that their information is being not only captured and used and saved, but duplicated and utilized later and used to their benefit or to their detriment, If people want to abuse it, first of all, and actually all those data centers, virtually every single data center, it has a backdoor into it from other places like Russia, Chinese hackers, stuff like that. They have remote access to those things. They got the whole entire database from the U.S. like everybody that's in public service in the U.S. All the CIA operatives, everybody in the military, everybody with clearances. Millions and millions and millions and millions of people, their social insurance number, their addresses, their IDs, like their images, all that kind of stuff, was hacked by China, and they had it for about 5 years before they noticed. So if you think Google's going to do, some amazing job keeping everybody's health records, I mean, they won't even know that these health records are actually being used, and some Chinese company or something like that will be leveraging this, using their own machine learning algorithm on it, and then be using this as just data to query, and they don't even need to abuse it or anything. They can just use this for, research purposes and stuff like that. And if they ever want to abuse it, they could. You're running for a certain thing, like an office or something, and you have a medical condition or whatever. They're talking about Trump and stuff, and he doesn't want to release his tax records and hospital records. He kind of like phonied up that whatever. So he might have a condition that he just doesn't want people to know about, and this would basically make it like it's getting really. If someone wants it out, it'll get out. So in kind of related news, Tulsi Gabbard in the political part there, Tulsi Gabbard her campaign wrote this letter to Hillary because Hillary is accusing her of being a Russian asset. So she basically writes this letter to Hillary Clinton saying that she needs to retract this, publicly apologize, and publish it in CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, New York Times, and Wall Street, or kind of suggesting that she'll sue them. So, I mean, this is a big step. This is really good. They kind of, in the Democratic Party, they kind of have this rule that you can't be shooting off about each other in certain ways. There's only certain things that you're allowed to deviate from. And so for her to actually kind of go out there and say, no, you can't say that about me. I'm going to kind of hate you for this, and I'm not going to let it go. I think that's really good. Good for her. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of her policy stuff, but she's a strong candidate, and I think this whole thing is really for her to actually become the nominee. Like, I think even Hillary knows this. I think this is kind of a ruse, because this is her campaign. It's not even Tulsi doing it. It's the campaign. A very big difference. I mean, it's the official campaign, but very different than if the actual candidate comes out and do it, because they can step back from a whole bunch of liability when it's the campaign doing stuff. That's basically the whole reason they do that kind of thing. So anyway, interesting. We'll see what happens. Ron Paul, there's an article here to talk about the mother of all bubbles. We were talking about this over the last couple of weeks. The whole thing, the U.S. especially, the U.S. stock market especially, the whole world market really right now is built on a bubble. It was supposed to really crash around 2015. Everybody was saying it goes in cycles between about 7 to 10 years maximum. Is really, it's a cycle, goes up and down, up and down. It gets pumped up and then it gets corrected, and it'll always kind of, even when it gets corrected, it'll be higher than it was, like 7 years ago. But it will readjust by like 25% or so, and then over the next 7 years it'll increase to like 50% or even double, and then it'll come back down 20-30% and then keep going back up. So it's kind of like this up and down, but overall higher in the long term, over and over. And that's really just because of inflation and stuff. It might not necessarily even be higher, but this up and down is just a cycle that happens anyway. So there's a nice little article here with Ron Paul. Ron Paul is a libertarian guy. He kind of started the whole Tea Party movement in the States, and I think he's still a congressman. I'm not 100% sure. I know his son Rand Paul is. So anyway, it's a good little article. It just talked about the basic fact that they're just spending too much money, and until they can actually start to correct the balance sheet, to stop overspending, to stop increasing the debt. If they can't really stop that immediately, there's just going to be too many wealthy people pulling out cashing in their assets, and then once that happens, once they cash out their assets, then it'll start triggering things, and that's kind of what creates this domino effect of. It's kind of a phenomenon that happens, and people even say this a trading strategy. You sell the news and buy the fear, sell the news. So when people are fearful, that's when you want to start buying, because they're selling. They're usually selling at a loss. That's usually when it's coming down, the price is coming down, and people are freaked out, so they want to get out. That can sometimes bring the value lower than what the actual real value is. So the price could be lower than what the real value is when there's fear. But when there's news, it's the opposite effect. The price gets inflated because more people want to get in on it. So that natural effect that happens, it usually gets triggered by big movements. So, Warren Buffett buys a bunch of this loan company, and then the shares just skyrocket. That's what happened. But the same thing, if Warren Buffett pulls out of one of those companies, that stock's going to crash hard. It's going to really go down hard. And when you do that a couple times with a few different people like that, it really makes a big swing in the market, which could lead to a correction, which I think is calculated at 15 or 20%, and then a crash is 25% or more, something along those lines. So it doesn't really even have to be that big of a change for it to be considered a crash or even just a correction. So anyway, just keep an eye out that. I wouldn't put too much money in any particular stock, and I would just do something that is really resistant to crashes. So something like McDonald's, they're pretty steady even in a crash, even though they're kind of used to that McDonald's indicators. They'll look at a country and be like, oh, McDonald's stock isn't doing good because of this here, so that means the economy's not really doing strong. But I mean, that's by percentage points. Like it's a solid stock doing. Same with like Coca-Cola and some big mega brands like that. But buying bonds, getting into the debt market and stuff, that's the freaky part. That's where the bubble really is. And just having too much debt, credit card debt, car loans, expensive mortgages, too many mortgages, those things could really backfire if this thing starts to actually contract. But we'll have to wait and see. We showed a video the other week there of this guy picking up this old lady, picking her up and throwing her. I'm not going to show it because it's pretty rough to see. He just picks her up and just slams her on the ground. Turns out she actually broke a rib, broke an arm, fractured a leg, something like that. And this is the guy that did it. Now, they said that she's in the hospital still. He was arrested for aggravated assault. Now, some people said she made a racial slur inside. Someone said that they made a racial slur about her. They basically said she said the N-word. But then there was a video that showed that it wasn't her, but you can hear the word being said. And then someone called her a old raggedy cracker, broken down cracker, something like that. Ugly, broke down cracker. But that's what they're saying. Then the other side's saying that. So they're obviously shooting off argument inside, but for the employee to come out and then body slam somebody like that, that's unreal. But the guy's in trouble. I mean, they picked him up, so. Darion Spray Shaley Hughes. And they, spell checked his name. What is this that it's spell checked? That's kind of funny. This is really good. This is crazy, actually. This is Greg Gutfeld on the show. I think it's The Five. I think that's what the show's. Yeah, The Five, yeah. And they're talking about the whistleblower, and this is a whistleblower that was talking about the Ukraine call that Trump had with the Ukraine president, and then there was this information that was kind of released suggesting that it was a quid pro quo, and then Trump released the transcript of the phone call, or most of the transcript of the phone call, and they were saying it's a perfect phone call, and this whistleblower, they're kind of hiding the whistleblower, and they wouldn't say, it's this guy named Eric Caramella, something like that. Supposedly the alleged whistleblower. It's not officially announced yet or whatever. The media still doesn't want to say, because they even say they say in here that they don't want to actually be the first ones to release the information, just in case they want, so in case there's some kind of liability, in case there's a big ruse, they're doing this on purpose. You don't actually know, but they're 99% sure it's this Eric guy who's a CAI operative, whatever. But anyway, they're talking about this lawyer that is representing the whistleblower. Now, for sure, this is the lawyer representing him, because he's come out and said he's representing the whistleblower, blah, blah, blah. And just watch this. It's very interesting.
Off the plane and they hand me, look at this character. Okay, they just hand me this story. Coup has started, whistleblower's attorney said in 2017. You know when that was? That was a long time ago. They say January 2017, a coup has started and the impeachment will follow ultimately. It's all a hoax. It's a scam.
A coup, it's true. Mark Zaid, a never-Trump fanatic, had long called for Trump's impeachment and now represents the whistleblower who, like the dossier plotters and the collusionists, had also been working with the Dems to concoct an impeachment scheme. All you need is an ambitious lawyer and an embedded activist willing to blow a whistle only Democratic dogs can hear. In the media world of what ifs, here is a what is. Actual tweets proving intent by insiders to overthrow a president. And once again, we see how the media and the Dems' desires coincide perfectly. Because way back then, Zaid also coyly tweeted this, quote, I predict CNN will play a key role in Donald Trump not finishing out his full term as...
So he's saying not shocking at all in response to a poll from The Hill saying more Americans trust CNN than Trump. I mean, please. Okay, that might be percentage, like in a percentage sense, that might actually be true because there's only like a couple 100,000 people that watch CNN at any particular time, where people watch Trump all day, every day. He's on every news thing all over the place, and half the country doesn't like him. So if you ask CNN viewers if they trust CNN, I don't know how they conducted the poll, but you know, I'm sure that's garbage in itself. But anyway, he said not shocking at all. I predict CNN will play a key role in Trump not finishing out his full term as president. I mean, that right there, and this is July 4th, 2017.
President. Holy crap. Now, maybe he was just applying for a job at CNN, or perhaps he was working with them already. Because the fact is, CNN, the Dems, the Times, they're all working for each other, trying to manipulate you with the same old story that gave us collusion and all the other non-bombshells. I mean, don't you find it really odd how the networks bent over backwards to protect this special whistleblower because, well, they hate Trump, yet CBS fires a whistleblower for outing a...
I'll let you guys watch this in its full here if you want. It's worth it's only 8 minutes. They talk about it a little bit, go back and forth, so that's fine. But I want to show some other information that they don't really talk about on this guy. So this lawyer, this is an article out of InfoWars. Whistleblower's lawyer bragged about getting kiddie porn perps national security clearances. So they're saying like this guy's kind of a creep. He has a lot of weird stuff kind of in his background. These are tweets that are confirmed. These are live tweets from Twitter. If you click on it, you can see it. This is his account. Why did this guy, alleged domestic abuser, have security clearances at all? So there's this article. He's reading an article saying, how did this guy even get this, this kind of security clearance? And he responds like he's not even in the conversation. He just jumps in there and says, I've gotten clearances for guys who had child porn issues. What? You're a lawyer. Why would you go out and, first of all, brag about that? This is last year. And he's like bragging about it. And the article's not even talking about that. He's just like, oh, I can use this as, and then he gets retweets and likes. And a lot of these are probably recent because people are talking about that. And look, see, you brag about this sick monster, indeed, no shit, really, blah, blah, blah. This is real too. Look at this. This is, okay, supposedly this may or may not be his channel. The channel is about 10 years old. It includes all his appearances on other shows like RT and stuff like that, which if somebody else goes on RT, because it's Russian television, it's sponsored by the Russian government. If you go on that show, they say like, oh, you're on this, that's like the Russians thing, that's blah, blah, blah. But this guy can go on it, and then he kind of brags about it, and then he says Trump's the Russian agent, or blah, 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 And then liked videos. You can see people's liked videos. And that's what he likes. He posts his own videos up there, and then he likes Disney girls and stuff. Now, this isn't confirmed. I haven't seen anything to verify that this is actually him. But the account is 10 years old. He uploaded these videos himself, or this account uploaded these videos 10 years ago of him on TV under his name, and he likes these things, right? And then you're like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of a far, fetch or whatever. Look, top 10 prettiest Disney Channel stars, and he likes it. The top 10 Disney girls likes it. Selena Gomez from Child to Woman. From Child to Women. Like, it didn't even spell right. So that would be kind of a far-fetched. I wouldn't even mention it if it wasn't for other tweets he actually makes. Well, like, first of all, kind of like having all these photos on his Twitter where it's just him by himself going to Disneyland, and then he actually tweets, well, look at this one. Not sure if being a little known lawyer is a good thing or bad, although associated with Epstein is probably a good thing. I mean, what? Why would he think that that's probably a good thing and somehow? Not even, like, it's not like an LOL or silly face. This is a serious point he's making. Not sure if that's good or bad to be a little known lawyer, but being associated with him, probably a good thing. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't have the tweet here. They kind of go through in this video. This is let's just watch this for a second, because I actually cover a bunch of other stuff, so it's worth watching this.
We will get rid of him. And this country is strong enough to survive him, even and his supporters. We have to. And 45 years from now, we might be recalling stories regarding the impeachment of real Donald Trump. I'll be old, but it'll be well worth the wait. And then here he is. Whistleblower attorney, alleged YouTube channel includes, and it's 10 years old, it's his YouTube channel, videos of Disney girls. It's media appearances he'd made, and then it's girls before they grew up. Selena Gomez, from a child to woman, top 10 Disney girls, top 10 Disney Channel stars. And then he tells you on his Twitter, well, let's put up his Twitter for everybody. And the reason this is important is you scratch the surface, and it's always the same, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, I actually am a firm believer that evil has to present itself, that it will sign its name, kind of like graffiti. It's just, there's always a stamp there. It always has to present itself. It always has to be known, so that the option is to the free will to whether to choose it or not. If it's not evil if you didn't choose it. Do you know what I mean? So if you know something's evil and you choose it, then you are at least being evil, if not evil. So when I see stuff like this, and it stacks up, they don't say anything about it, they don't deny it, they don't contextualize it, they just, then it's like, yeah, I think there's evil there.
And that's what I've explained, why people need to stop being so naive. Looks like the whistleblower's lawyer is very into Disney child actresses. I would have joined the FBI for the free Disney passes, he said.
Look at that. Right here, that's the original tweet. I would have joined the FBI just for the free Disney passes.
And let's show some of those tweets, him at Disney World with little kids in the background. Says, I like to...
And look, this is from 17. So in one sense, he's talking about got to get rid of Donald Trump. Got to get rid of this guy. Got to impeach this guy. The thing's already started. The coup's already started. This is going to play a big... CNN's going to play a big role in getting rid of him. He's actively talking about getting rid of him. And then in the same way, because they can't help it. Evil stuff like that cannot help talking about and bragging and like trying to pull in more evil. Like, and then so he's talking about all this other stuff in the same way. What kind of FBI agent goes on Twitter to talk about anything Disney related? Or the lawyer or whatever, as a lawyer even. And like, this is just like 2 years ago, and he's writing like this. This isn't like he's like 16 or something, and or something, or I don't know.
Come here by myself, he tells you. Oh, it's my favorite place there. You can see all the photos of him at Disney World with the characters and him sitting there with the...
Now, to be fair, these all look like they're from the same thing, from the same time. You go there to get the photo with the people or whatever, but then you go like in Disney circles or whatever, and they talk about Epstein, who's a known pedophile, one of the biggest pedophiles in the States. Like, they're actively talking about that right now. And then he's representing a whistleblower that's against Trump. And if you actually pull up, I should have pulled this up, I just remembered, kind of thought of it now. There's been like more pedophile rings and stuff busted now. Oh my God, I just realized they just put hashtag kid pro quo after quoting what the guy said. Jesus. That's really what it is, actually. It's blackmailing with this weird sick stuff. But Trump's just been ripping all that stuff up. You can actually just Google it, pull it up. There's just countless articles of, like, kids saved lost kids found, groups and groups and groups of men and like powerful people and stuff all getting busted. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that stuff still again and again. And I don't think this Epstein thing's going anywhere. I think there's just some more bigger background stuff that are still kind of shifting in the background before it starts to bubble back up again. Because the guy died and they know he was killed, and they're just trying to figure out how to actually, because they know who like these people are exposing themselves over and over. Like this guy here, Trump knows exactly this story right here. Guaranteed he heard about this story as of today or yesterday, and he is like would be pissed about it and be like, this perv, blah blah blah. He's just one of those guys. That's what he's like. He's kind of a perv Trump's kind of a perv in his own way, but I don't think that's kind of the perv he is. Like this kind of stuff would make him sick, and he would just go ballistic on this kind of stuff. So I think you're going to see something very shortly about this kind of thing. And the guy just, I don't know, something about the kind of wormy looking. I don't know. Nonpartisan. Wow. He actually says that is about nonpartisan. Baloney. An op-ed on why whistleblower identity is not relevant and needs to be protected. It's not relevant when, okay, if you can verify the information's true. Okay, so if the whistleblower exposes information, like it's like a data dump or something like that, like emails or something, okay. But if the whistleblower is just saying, I heard this, I heard them talking about this, you can't do that. You cannot do that and not testify. And then even then, you'd have to testify in, a secret court or something to verify, so that the court could at least verify that you did indeed come across this information legitimately, if there's any doubt about it. But look at that. Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. All right, well, call me stupid. You still lost. Because you're arguing with us now. Especially when you expose yourself like a pervert. Look at this guy. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. In itself, there's nothing wrong with that. But you line those things up, it doesn't look right. Especially this. If this actually comes out to be his, if someone can actually confirm that's his, and maybe he has a kid or something, but then you only get like those 3 videos, I mean, that's weird. And look, you can see it's 8 years ago and then 9 years ago, roughly the same time those videos were uploaded. So I mean, that would have been that would have been some good long game for some conspiracy stuff. That's a good long game. Plant this stuff, do it early when the person's just starting to come up, let the thing sit there for 10 years, and then it's hard for them to deny it. That could very well be true. We'll have to see if he says that's his or isn't, and then if the things are removed. Here's kind of a funny thing here with they announced this movie, Sonic movie. Jim Carrey's in it as Robotnik. It's a famous video game cartoon character. Sonic. It's kind of like Sonic. It's Sega's Mario. It's kind of like that. It's kind of the Sega version of Mario. And they released this trailer like probably 6 months ago, and the version of Sonic just looked ridiculous. It looked stupid. It looked like a guy in a weird suit. Looked like a kid in a suit with really weird... Like, this is what it actually looked like on the left. Like, kind of real, but not real. Like, kind of half on that uncanny valley, especially with the body proportions. Just looks like a little person in a suit. Where this is like more the actual, classic character looks like. Big giant feet, big hands, like... big boots and gloves or whatever, little body, long legs, and big head, big eyes, stuff like that. And they just did this hybrid version. Like even this one here, if you see the original, this is the original poster, and then someone went and kind of fixed it up. Just the spacing between, like there's just all this weird stuff that they kind of did with this. And immediately when I saw that first trailer, I was like, this is a setup. This is actually a setup. This is not, like this is the original here. There's no way they're going to release the movie like that. And then sure enough, people said, oh, this is stupid, this looks ridiculous, everybody was making fun of it, and then they're, oh, okay, well, we're gonna fix it, and then they go back, and then a couple months later they released a new trailer, and it's 100 times better. And I actually think this was just kind of a ruse just to get people, like, kind of a marketing plan. And I said that at the time. I even said that this is just a marketing thing. There's no way that they're seriously releasing this, like, as that. There's no way in hell. And then they said that they would redesign it, and I was like, yeah, see. And even just, like, there was a little bit, something lazy about the trailer itself. So just watch this for a second.
20 minutes ago.
So, like, they don't even show the character that much in the trailer, right? They show Jim Carrey, right? They show his scene. So, oh, okay, cool. And then they just show, like, look at this. This is so weird. That it doesn't even look like it's actually finished. It's like low resolution.
Meow.
I mean, it's like you can kind of see the difference there with like just the normal pixelation and just it doesn't look fully rendered. Kind of, I don't know. It just looks odd. It looks kind of cheap version, and it just doesn't look like looks like a deep fake kind of thing, you know. And then you look at the real one.
Ball of super energy. In an extremely handsome package. On my planet, people were always after my powers. So I came to yours.
And now the whole thing
gets a little...
like it just shows him constantly. So the first one, they kind of show you a glimpse. People take those little glimpses and be like, look how stupid this is. And they fix it and do all the stuff. And then they go replace it with the like classic.
Lonely. But that's okay. I am living my best life on Earth. What?
See, like, totally different than this weird looking... What the hell is that? Then that's actually what it's supposed to... And then you can see, like, just the lighting that they did. It almost looks like a kind of a teddy bear type, you know, texture to it. But you can just see this is actually...
Ow! Let the place sunny!
You know, you can tell that's fully rendered there. This actually looks like he's pretty legit standing there, but he's actually a cartoon character.
Let the bitches mount all.
And they got like the big giant eyes, and then these little tiny eyes. It's so weird. I mean, it's a total thing. But anyway, it's enough of that. It's pretty obvious to me. But it's cool. It's a nice little trailer. You should check it out. Trailer's totally different than, you know, the first one.
This can't be happening to me.
Oh my God! Stop the car right now! What? The world's largest rubber band ball? We gotta see it.
No, this is not some fun family road trip.
You're right. It was lame. Gift shop was cool though.
So that actually looks kind of good, yeah. But yeah, go check that out. I'm not a big fan of Jim Carrey anymore. I know it's kind of crazy, but he just seems to go off the deep end. And you read up on a lot of his history stuff with his ex there and the girl who died and all that stuff. It's just, there's some weird stuff. I don't know. He kind of looks... I don't know. Good work. Definitely has some good work, but whatever. I'll save it to the end. That's kind of neat. Ip Man 4. I don't know if you guys ever seen this, but it's Donnie Yen who plays Ip Man, which is the kind of grandmaster teacher who taught Bruce Lee. So this is the fourth movie, Wicked fight scenes, really cool. Has that kind of, sometimes has a bit of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of jumpy type stuff, but generally speaking, it's just really cool martial arts. So we'll just take.
So
they're definitely making it like it's like he's in America, and they're trying to make it. They're really trying to bridge the gap between the Chinese audience and the American audience because, I mean, China's like the huge market coming out for movies, like expanding, starting to bypass Hollywood, but this Hollywood's still that staple, right?
You're a teacher?
I am a teacher. I teach Chinese Kung Fu.
Like a gymnast?
So it's, you know, silly, whatever. But then you
Real
also...
combat. Fight me! Cowards! That's bad!
夠啦！我哋係咪應該用中國武術？ 去改變外國人對我哋華。
Oh, we got the Bruce Lee right there.
去改變外國人對。
I wonder if that's the same guy that played the Bruce Lee there in that movie. Looks pretty good.
改變外國人對我哋華人嘅偏見。
这些老外无时不刻的想撵我们走。
Is that it? Is this your Chinese kung fu?
And all the Ip Man movies are always like, is this your... They always insult them like, is this what you call Chinese? I thought you guys were better. And then they get their butt whooped. I'm excited for that. This is going to be awesome. It's just really cool. Basically, the Chinese John Wick. That's what it is. All right, so lastly, I saw this on raidedition.com. It's a good website. They got some good news. The guy does a lot of cool videos. And I just kind of saw this on the side, and I thought it was kind of interesting, so I thought I'd read it. Just kind of talk about socialism, communism, fascism, Nazism, and capitalism, and the difference. And so socialism, you got 2 cows. The government takes one and gives it to your neighbor. Communism, when you have 2 cows, you give them to the government, and then the government will give you milk. Fascism, when you have 2 cows, you give them to the government, and then the government will sell you milk. And then Nazism is you have 2 cows, the government takes both and shoots you, which is absurd and funny in its absurdity. But true, I guess, you know. And capitalism, you have 2 cows, you sell one and buy a bull. And I just thought that was a really nice way to kind of end that is you have 2 cows, you sell 1 cow and buy a bull. There's so much like little data in that little bit, you know, because now you can make as many bulls and cows as you want and keep creating value because you have that freedom to exchange capital and goods through money and trade and barter. So, and the fact that sell one and buy a bull, sell and buy, and then these other things is all about taking, essentially. Or having to buy from the government, you know. And then there's another one here, socialism does not work. Clearly, these people are pretty hard on the right. I don't necessarily, I mean, some of these are kind of semantics. It's kind of like, yeah, whatever. But this one's kind of neat. You cannot legislate the poor into prosperity by legislating the wealthy out of prosperity. And then what one person receives without working for, another person must work for without receiving. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to even just do a thought experiment about, whether you agree or disagree. There's just something there for that say, what one person receives without working for, another must work without receiving. So some people might even talk about this in the context of healthcare. Is healthcare a right? Because if it's equal rights to access healthcare, that would be one thing. But rights to healthcare would mean that you have the right to someone else's labor, in the sense that if there's only 2 people, one's a doctor, one's not, then that the person would have a right to force the doctor to treat them, to provide labor at no compensation. So then you're saying that it's my right to enslave. And that goes back to the old expression, freedom is slavery. So in one sense, they're saying, and it's kind of it's a contradiction, because you're saying you have a right to something, but that right is freedom, but then the freedom kind of imposes the concept of slavery to suggest that you have the rights to force someone to do something because it's your rights. But then so it's something to think about, and especially that expression that we see here, or this, I don't know if it's a quote or what, but it just kind of rings true that what one person receives without working, another must work for without receiving. All right, everyone, that's the end of the episode. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, share the links, tell the Google algorithm that this is something that you actually want to keep seeing. Hit the little notification button by the subscribe, and let us know what you think. Anyways, we'll see you on the next episode.